Welcome to Plot Recon, where thrillers get tactical. I'm your host, Evan Graver. Today I'm joined by Sharon Ward, best-selling author of the Fleming Scuba Diving Mystery Series. Her books drop readers into warm water settings packed with danger, diving, and high-stakes suspense, all anchored by her fearless lead character, Fleming. Before turning to fiction, Sharon built a career as an marketing executive with Oracle and Microsoft, and she's also a PADI dive master with hundreds of dives logged around the world. The real-world experience fuels her writing, gives her series a depth and authenticity that readers keep coming back to. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Thank you, Evan. It's nice to be here.
All right. So I'm just going to jump right in. And how did you go from the corporate world to writing?
I'm sure you hear this from everyone who's on your show, but I always knew I wanted to be a writer from when I was a little kid. But as you probably also know, life gets in the way. So when I started reaching a certain age, I said it's kind of now or never. So I actually started a side business while I was still working in the corporate world, where I wrote um, marketing literature for other companies. So I did a lot of website writing and white papers and things like that, which I did just to polish up my writing skills and learn how to write very fast. Um, and then, then when I got comfortable with all that, I started writing my novels. I started with a different novel, which is unpublished and sitting in a deep recess on my hard drive and never to be seen again. But I woke up one day and there was Finn in my mind, and I said, "Oh gosh, that's who I should be writing about." And so the rest is history.
All right. Um, how did I keep calling her Flem. How did Fleming come about? I mean, you just said she just popped into your mind, but there has to be a deeper backstory to that.
There was actually. I had been thinking that I needed a different character than the one that was in my dead novel, and so I thought of the name Newton Fleming actually, and I was going to have her be called Newt, because it's very cool to have stupid names for your heroines. And I was at that point thinking it was actually going to be more of a paranormal kind of book where Finn would take pictures and the picture would develop as not what she had taken a picture of, but of something that was going to happen in the future. And so she had kind of eyes of Laura Mars, and she had to go and see what she could do to stop it. And then I said, well, that's stupid. Who wants to read that stuff? And so then I said she can't be Newton anyway. So Newton became her father, and I said Finn was named after her grandmother, whom she's never met. So her real name is Finola Fleming, but of course everyone calls her Finn. Um, and she's an underwater photographer, and she loves to scuba dive. And so that she can dive all the time, she works for a research institute on Grand Cayman, which is my favorite dive location. And the Research Institute, it's an oceanographic research, was founded by her mother and her stepfather. And so I said, okay, now I've got this rounded out. My favorite undersea creatures are stingrays, so they're also fins. Um, and it opens with Finn kind of interacting with her favorite stingray, and then we're off and running.
Okay. Um, so obviously you put a lot of experience from your PADI dive master days in there. Where did you dive master, and um, what led you into that path?
Well, I live in New England, so to be honest, the bulk of my diving has been in New England, but I've also traveled all around the Caribbean and done some Pacific diving as well. But um, I was always afraid of the ocean, to be honest. And that stemmed back to when I saw 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea on the Wide World of Disney when I was like 7 years old. And that monster scared me no end. And I was like, I'm never going where that thing can be. And my whole life, I was afraid of things with tentacles. And then my husband and I got married in 1988, and we had both been married before, and we decided that every year on our anniversary we would go on a trip, just the two of us, to remember why we got married, because it's way easy to lose sight of each other. And so about the third time we were planning this, I was sitting in bed. We were both sitting in bed, and I had all these travel books spread on the bed around me because in those days you did your planning through travel books. And I picked up this book about Bonaire, and I said, we should learn to scuba dive and go to Bonaire. And there's nothing else to do on Bonaire except scuba dive. Um, and he said, that's a great idea. And then I said, oh my God, what have I done? You know. So my assignment was to find our scuba training, and I shirked my duty for several weeks, and he kept saying, come on, have you set it up yet? So I finally set it up. And I was an abysmal diver at first. I nearly drowned in the pool multiple times. I had to be rescued. I couldn't go underwater without holding my nose. It was just, it was totally embarrassing. Um, but I loved it, totally loved it. I was awestruck, breathing underwater, even in the pool when we were doing the thing, skills learning and things. And when we did our open water, I did my first open water dive in February in New England in a snowstorm. Froze like you would not believe. And I came out, I was so excited, so thrilled. I was just like, that was amazing. Um, so we got our certification, and the next week we went to Bonaire and never looked back. It was, all after that. But so then we all took more classes. We took advanced diving and rescue diving and wreck diving and deep diving and all the diving you can take, and ended up getting my dive mastering. And then I worked for the guy who ran the dive shop where we'd been certified and helped him with his classes and things like that. So a lot of cold water diving.
Yeah. It is very cold up there. I learned to dive in Ohio, so I'm right there with you with the cold water. The place we dove a lot was 40 degrees at 62 feet all year round.
Oh,
Yeah. Did you, I mean, obviously you wore a 7 mil during your intro dives. Did you
yes,
dress
but
into dry suit?
yes, I did. I'm actually very small. I don't look small on the screen here, but I'm actually very small, so it was very hard to get off the rack dive suits. And of course, I had an off the rack dive suit that day in February when I took my first dive. I was so cold. I did not stop shivering for like 3 days afterwards, and I ain't doing that again. So, custom dive suit, custom dry suit.
Yeah. Night and day diving between New England and Bonaire.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, did you ever think about moving someplace warmer where you could do more diving?
Um, I would have loved to, but in fact, every time we'd go any place, I'd say, "Oh, we should move here," and Jack would be like, "Uh-huh." Um, then we had our first grandchild, and I thought, there is no way on earth I am going to miss 1 minute of time that I could be spending with Taylor, and so we gave up on the idea of moving anywhere where she wasn't.
Family's important. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Diving is part of the reason I moved to Florida. It's incredible down here. The diving is just pretty much year round. So, uh,
Where in Florida do you live?
I live in Hollywood, which is sandwiched between Miami and Fort Lauderdale.
Super.
So we have and I actually work part time as a dive shop, and we do a lot of dive training. So it's a lot of fun. Diving's been a big part of my world, and I write about it too. So anytime I can talk to tropical author people about diving, it's fabulous. So
Yes.
yeah. Um, Obviously integrating all that into Finn's world is very important to you because that's writing what we know is always the mantra, right?
Right. It's interesting because my first book that I didn't publish was a mystery, and it was a very classical mystery. And I thought Finn books were going to be very classical mystery, and they are. There is a mystery, and it follows all the tropes that you need to have in a mystery. There's red herrings, there's multiple suspects, all that kind of stuff. But I realized about the third one in that people were only reading the books for the diving, and the mystery was just like a loss leader. Because I would get all these, oh my God, I love that. I love this fish. I love that. And I got terror. I had a stingray that died in one, and you would not believe the hate mail I got because the stingray died. And I was like, really? People were upset because my stingray died? But so Finn has an octopus, which is not really a pet, but she was a research subject when Finn got her PhD in oceanography. And people were like, "Don't let anything happen to Rosie." And I said, "Okay, Rosie is immortal. She will never die."
Yeah, I think pets humanize the characters and show us different traits other than how we interact with people.
Yes,
So it is very nice to get that fan mail and tell us what direction we need to keep going with our writing.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, so how do you handle the criticism when they tell you that you didn't get something right in the?
I get that fairly often, but I mean not fairly often. I mean occasionally. And at first, my feelings are terribly hurt, and then I think, well, anything I'm not sure of or that is different or unique, I have a whole plethora of books, the Navy diving manual, the NOAA diving manual, all the PADI books, all that on my shelf, and I just look. Like someone told me you don't throw up when you drown, like if you're resuscitated from drowning, and I said, pretty sure you do because it says so right here on this page in the NOAA diving book. And so I just say, you know, I checked. How long has it been since you checked?
Yeah, yeah. You can't please everybody, so it is difficult. What when you started writing, what was the plan? Were you gonna go straight into Kindle Unlimited? Did you go try to go wide?
Um, I did go straight into Kindle Unlimited, which I think is a good move for beginning authors because it gives you some exposure and some revenue that you might not have gotten otherwise. And then I took books out of Kindle Unlimited and I was selling them on my website, but I wasn't quite comfortable with giving to other places for distribution and then being able to come back out if I wanted to go back in Kindle Unlimited, how to get them all out of that all on fast and all that. So what I do is I keep them in Kindle Unlimited until the revenue hits just a certain percentage of my revenue, and then I open them up, I take them out, and I put them back on my web store. And I do that for a while until I get a bunch of email that says, "Why aren't these in Kindle Unlimited?" So then I put them back in Kindle Unlimited and do that for a while.
Okay. Is that do you have a is that like a business plan or is that just um, as people request it?
No, it's basically a business plan. I am a business person by training, um, and so I've been very businesslike and methodical about my writing career. I had a business plan, which truthfully is only a couple of paragraphs. It says, by this time I will be making this much money and have written these many books, and um, you know, and that was it. But I had a business plan. I know what my revenue is supposed to be. I check that business plan 3 or 4 times a year, see if I'm on track. These are the tactics I'm going to use. I see if I've done them, if they worked, if they didn't work. Um, and then I, update it and move on. But yeah, so it was always kind of a plan. Um, and until I figure out how to pull books out of being wide so that they're just, Kindle Unlimited again, it's going to stay just Kindle Unlimited or my store, Kindle Unlimited, and, my store.
Yeah, yeah. It's difficult. I found it's difficult to bounce in and out of Kindle Unlimited because I would try release into KU for 90 days and then go wide. And as I did that, my numbers in KU just started going down and down and down. And Eventually, I just released wide, and tried to sell everything through my own store.
Hmm.
Um, so I saw that you have a store, and um, so are you selling a lot of paperbacks and audiobooks through there?
I am. I sell more audiobooks through my store than almost anywhere else. And paperbacks usually make up about 30 to 35% of my sales, even on Amazon. And so, I get a lot of sales of paperbacks. The thing that I've done to make people want to go to my store, and again, business-like, they can get, signed copies. I have copies of my books that are different from those that are on Amazon that you can only get on my website. For example, sorry, this is in deep that you can get anywhere. This is in deep that you can only get on my website. And this book has scenes in it that are not in this book. So if you want to know what happens during certain dives or things where terrible, terrible things happen to people, it's all in the blue book, not in the in deep, in the standard in deep book. So um, there's ways to get people to your store, and I think people are, actually the last year or so when people have kind of turned against Amazon because of their wealth. Um, it's made it a lot easier to sell on my own store because there are people who don't want to buy from Amazon under any circumstances. And all the paperback and the hardcovers are and the audiobooks are available everywhere. It's just the ebooks that pop in and out of Kindle Unlimited. And to be honest, I wait until the revenue from Kindle Unlimited gets down below 20% before I put them back on my website. Um, and then I do that until I get enough people saying, why isn't it in Kindle Unlimited before I put it back?
Okay. How are you? Are you shipping your own paperbacks? Are you doing print on demand?
I do some of each. I have a little web store down in my basement that my husband set up for me where I have hard copies and paperbacks of all of my books so that when people order um, signed copies, I have them available and I can ship them out very quickly. But when people order just a book, I may in fact use Book Vault I've actually never used Amazon, although I know some people do. I mostly use Book Vault if if I need to ship directly from the printer.
Okay. That's I've been using Lulu. They seem to take a lot longer than um, like an Amazon. Amazon prints pretty fast, and
It does print fast, and it's cheaper actually than Lulu and Book Vault, but Book Vault is cheaper than Lulu, by the way. So
yeah,
you
it's
you may want to.
I think Amazon has the economy of scale on the paperback printing.
Yes. Yeah, and you know what they do too is when you order one, they'll print, depending on how frequently you sell them, they'll print three, five, 100, whatever makes sense for them, so they can ship very quickly after that, until it gets, until they've used up that inventory. Whereas if you're going through Lulu or Book Vault, you order one, they print one,
Yeah,
and there's nothing until you go back.
yeah. I found that Amazon, like author copies, Amazon's really slow to print and ship. But if you want, you know, Lulu does take about that same time, and I think Book Vault's about the same time frame on those. But I wish they would Amazon would speed up a little bit on those because you can get a proof and you can get buy a regular book and get it the next day. So
Yeah,
it's
I don't know why that is that they're like that, but
yeah, I don't either, but that's maybe it's just the printing time, depending upon how many books you order or whatnot. So
well,
um,
that's true. I mean, if I order 10, I get them faster than if I order 100.
yeah,
So,
yep. So what is the one lesson you brought over from your business days that applies directly to what you're doing now with the authors?
Um, One is a work ethic. People are usually surprised, because they think I'm a writer and I'm playing solitaire most of the day. I I do play solitaire, but I'm at my desk no later than 8:30, and I'm here full time until 3:30 or 4 o'clock, and I'm writing, or I'm working on marketing, or I'm doing podcasts or something about the business. I truly treat my writing like a business, and I think that's the most important thing. I have friends that started out writing at the same time that I did, and I've written 10 books, and they're still working on the first book. And they'll go, well, I had to do this, and I did that, and I did whatever, and I'm like, it's fine. I mean, it's all in your priority.
Yeah, that is true. I started out in a writers group, and I think most of them still have never published a book, and it's been 10 plus years since I started. So,
Exactly.
but I think that's once you take it seriously and want to go grow it as a business, then it becomes easier. It's not a hobby or something you can pick up and put down. It's just this is our focus, and we're going to drive towards our goal of accomplishing those business goals that we have.
Exactly. And that's why, when people ask me, I always say, start with your business plan. What do you want to do and where do you want to go? And then every day, everything you do should be in support of that business plan. You maybe come up with 5 or 10 tactics or, whatever that you're going to use to hit the goals on that business plan, and you check them out periodically. And if they're working, great. And if they're not, find something else. But you can't I can't be successful unless I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. And I think that's true for most writers. And I think that's the hardest lesson for most writers to learn, because it looks like it's easy. You could be Lee Child sitting on your sofa for 90 days and be done, um, with, a book that's going to sell 10 zillion copies. Most of us are not that lucky.
Yeah, that's I think Lee Child's one of those outliers, but so when you're focused on the business, what are the metrics that matter to you to help grow your business?
I look at several things. I look at my Amazon ranking within my genre, within my categories, and I'm astonished at how many writers don't know their categories or don't know what categories they should be in or how to check categories. So periodically, at least once a week or so, I check the top 100 for my categories and make sure that most of my books are in that top 100. Certainly, I like Indeed to be in there constantly, because if you can get someone to read your first book, they'll read the rest, unless you're really bad. Uh, so, so I do that. I check that periodically. I check my spending and the success of my ads on both Amazon and Facebook. Um, I write every day. I have this really stupid spreadsheet that I put together that figures out how many days I have until I want to have my book finished, how many words I need to write, per day to get there, how I am on schedule. I have multiple pie charts and graphs and everything all over this thing because I find that highly motivating. So when I'm writing, I have I have three screens here in front of me. And when I'm writing, there's a screen directly in front of me that is the one I'm writing on. But the one over on my left has my spreadsheet there all the time. And I periodically go over and go, oh my God, I'm behind schedule. Um, so it's very motivating. So that's it. And I checked, I said I was going to have X number of books by, this time. Am I going to make that? If not, why not? And was it realistic, or, am I goofing off? And so I do lots of things. I'm not painfully annoying about it. I mean, but I am definitely focused on it as a business.
Okay. Well, let's carry that over into writing the book. Are you a pantser? Are you a plotter? It seems like you would lean more towards plotting it all out.
Not a chance. I have a funny writing sequence. I know I start with the title, to be honest. I have a whole list of titles and that use, like keywords and relate to the ocean, and I get a title, and then I sit down and I start writing. So I know what the crime is going to be. Um, and then I start writing, and I'll write probably halfway through. And I typically by then I know how it's going to end. And so then I will go and I'll say, okay, I need to have a scene that does this, a scene that does this, a scene that does this in order for me to get from where I am to where I want to end up. And then I write from that. But it's funny because sometimes I don't even know until I get to that last chapter who the real killer or bad guy is. And I get email every now and then. Someone will say, "I knew right from the first page who was the killer," and I go, "How? I didn't know." Yeah,
That is the great thing about pantsing, is that you never know what's going to happen. Your characters will tell you what's going on, and then the bad guy just magically shows up. So
that's right. It's
yeah.
amazing. You go, "How did I know? I didn't."
It's almost like someone's up there beaming it down into your brain, and you're just putting it
Absolutely.
on the keyboard. Yeah. I find it's a lot of fun to just let the characters interact, and so with the way the things Finn is, and how much of you is in her. Do you find that you write a lot of your experiences end up in the book?
No, actually, some of the other characters are much more like me than Finn is. Finn is definitely a leader, but she doesn't like it. She's always being put in charge of Rio, the Oceanographic Institute where she works, and she will do that for one book and go, "I hate this. I don't want to do it. I want to go back to being a photographer." And then, you know, she'll do that for a while, and then somehow she ends up being in charge again. So she doesn't like being in charge. I love being in charge. And Finn is much taller than me, and the only thing we really have in common is we like pirate grammar jokes and puns, um, and we're divers.
How difficult is it to write her if you're not really, she's not really part of you? Are you pulling from how other people react to situations?
Times, I don't think anybody can write any character who isn't really a part of them. I don't think that's possible, but I try hard to make sure that Finn is not me. Um, and so Finn has insecurities that I don't. She has confidence in situations where I wouldn't. So, we have that opposite. She is, I love to be in charge, as I said, and she doesn't. So it's, you know, it's a strange thing. Her, I have a lot more in common with some of the members of her family or the group of people that she hangs out with. So, that's kind of interesting. Although she does read Nicholas Harvey and Nick Sullivan, just as I do. So,
So speaking of those guys, um, Nick Harvey's got characters in Cayman. How
yes.
are you guys interacting?
Um, we've talked about it. So far, all that's happened is Finn will pull a Nicholas Harvey book out of her bookshelf or something like that, or her new husband will say, "Gosh, I'm bored," and she'll say, "Here, read this Nicholas Harvey book, or read Nick Sullivan's book, or um, something like that." But um, we haven't. But an interesting thing has just happened to me, actually. Wayne Stinnett, who was kind of the granddaddy of the tropical authors, just asked me to co-write with him his Charity Style series. So we're working on that. And I think
Congratulations.
that is
That's
like the most awesome thing that has happened to me.
yeah, that is awesome, amazing for you.
Yes.
So yeah, Wayne is I like to call him the godfather of tropical authors and of the sea adventure genre on Amazon, because he was there when it started pretty much.
Right. And I mean, he dominates it.
Yeah, he
I
does.
have to find other categories so I don't have to compete with him.
That is true. But he's a great guy, and he gives us free advice, and just a fantastic guy.
Yes.
Um, how did you get involved in tropical authors? Because you're on the email team.
Hmm.
So,
Well, this is kind of weird because I told you the first book I wrote was a mystery, and I really thought the that In Deep was a mystery, and it is, but it isn't. It's really a diving book. So I always call it a scuba diving mystery because there's a lot of scuba diving in it. So I did not know being that there was such a thing as scuba diving fiction. And I was just, doing typical mystery marketing kind of stuff. And Nick Sullivan, who I adore, just wrote me an email one day and said, I have this group. Are you interested in joining? And I thought, huh, look at that. And I looked and I said, oh, this is my tribe. These are the people I should have been hanging out with all along. So I joined. And when I first joined, Nick and Nicholas and Chris Niles were doing the newsletter all the time. And then, of course, Nicholas Harvey got so busy, with his massive success that he couldn't keep up with the newsletter. So Nick asked me if I would do it. And so the three of us alternate, we take turns month by month, whose month it is to do the newsletter. But it's been fun.
yeah, for those that are listening, to go to tropicalauthors.com and sign up for the newsletter and get deals of the get twice monthly. You get deals on new books coming out, books being
Sales,
marked down, sales. Yeah,
bundles, all kinds of great stuff. So, and that's ebooks and audiobooks. So whatever your media that you like is, it's there.
yes, absolutely. Oh, on when sliding back into Finn's world, so you built Russo Institute of Oceanography in your books. Obviously, the protecting the ocean is big to you and to
Hmm.
Finn. Are you funding any research or donating proceeds to help save the ocean?
I have. I don't have a regular, like a regular giving program, but when there are things going on um, that I believe in, I certainly donate to those. I've also, when we used to be, when I used to dive master all the time, we used to do a lot of things like cleanup days where we'd go to, beaches and clean up all the stuff underwater, pick up all the Coke cans and fishing line and all the other stuff that gets down there. So Finn does those kinds of things as well. And I hope that people who read them who are not doing this sort of thing um, learn from that and try it in their own lives. So I try to support them both financially and through my writing.
I see a lot of trash when we're out diving, and that's always we're always trying to pick it up. And is there one pet peeve that you have when you see people diving and or leaving trash?
Yeah, I don't like people leaving trash anywhere. So I I hate cigarette butts and I hate cans and I hate plastic bags and I hate fishing line. But I don't know. I don't remember seeing too much else other than those things down there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's I know that they just dumped the Broward County Sheriff just went out and picked up like 40 or 50 tires somebody just dumped on the reef. So it's
yeah. We went one year to Curacao, and it's lovely diving area, but they kept taking us to the dock, and under the dock there were all these old tires and banana peels and I kept saying, why are we going there? This place is terrible. We should do either clean it up or don't take people there. It's just like I could not believe that, and they said, well, this is one of the best sites on the island, and I was like, well, you got a problem.
yeah. If you want to see banana peels and tires, it's great, right?
Exactly, sandwich
Yeah.
wrappers. Come on, guys.
So, what is your biggest influence on your creative drive, inside or outside of publishing?
I think the Sea Hunt just tell you how old I was. I watched the original Sea Hunts first time they were on TV. Um, I think that was really it totally fascinated me. And even though I had that fear of the giant squid, I really enjoyed watching those adventures and seeing all the things that poor Mike Nelson went through. And there's actually a fake restaurant in the books called Nelson's, which is run by a friend of Finn's. And at Nelson's, they just over the bar run continuous reruns of Sea Hunt episodes. Um, and of course, all the divers go there and they love watching all the Sea Hunt episodes. But so I think that was important. And my fear of octopus was hugely important because it was, this sounds stupid, but it was debilitating. I was afraid to go in the water. I had a book about octopus that I bought when I was a little kid in school, and I put it in my desk. And I was afraid to open my desk for weeks because there was an octopus book in there. So that I wanted to get over that. I have this face your fears kind of thing. If I'm afraid of something, I may cower for a little while, but then I'm right there. I'm going to do it and I'm going to get through it. And so that's what happened with diving. I was afraid, and so I did it.
That is always the best thing to do to conquer your fears. I'm definitely afraid of snakes, and there's no way I'm going out to pet ones.
I
Congratulations on getting over octopus. Boy, I'm running out of questions because we talked about all of it. So, but when you're, do you have somebody that you bounce ideas off of? Like if you're going through the business plan, does your husband help you a lot? Do
no. I have a group of writer friends that I I work with. We meet, periodically. We help. When I first started, I used to have them read my books and give feedback or whatever. And when I realized that they're all mystery writers, when I realized that despite the Finn Fleming scuba diving mystery tagline, my book is scuba diving fiction, not mystery. And so I don't ask them to read it anymore because they would give me feedback like, well, there's a lot of dive scenes in this book. And I'd be like, yes.
they're supposed to be, yeah, yeah,
But we do, we edit, we talk things over. We'll do brainstorming sometimes. My problem is not having enough ideas. My problem is having time enough to execute on all my ideas.
right,
So
yeah,
I just kind of have to prioritize, which is
yeah.
key.
Now, are you how? What's the balance like of writing versus the business aspect? Are you like writing in the morning and business in the afternoon, or do you find like I got to finish this book and put everything off to the side?
Yeah, I tend to do things in spurts. I'll write a book and let everything else kind of go by the wayside, and then I'll go, oh, I might have to look at that Facebook ad because it's costing a lot of money and I'm not seeing a lot of sales. And so then I'll go and I'll poke around in that for a while and come up with a new one or whatever. Um, or I'll, do promotions or something like that, various promotions. But I try to spend the bulk of my time writing, truthfully.
Well, that's well, that's the core of um, our business. So we have to keep producing content, and especially you know Kindle Unlimited. You don't want to lose that visibility, and if you go too long between books, your visibility starts to fade.
Exactly. And, um, I'm a little behind my normal schedule in coming out with my next book, and I'm gonna like show you my cover because I have the most beautiful covers done by David Behrens, another one of the tropical authors. My next book is going to be called Heat Wave, and I am a little behind, and I'm getting emails and Facebook messages from all my readers saying, "Where's Heat Wave? We're waiting for Heat Wave." Okay, I'm on it.
So how do you pick that up and fill in the gap? Are you you're advertising on Facebook? Obviously, you said that. Are you doing AMS ads and
I
that type
am,
of thing?
yeah.
How are they working out for you?
Um, For a long time, they were very expensive, and there was no tangible results. I only knew that when I wasn't doing them, my sales dropped, and when I was doing them, they went up. But not necessarily always went up in lockstep with how much I was spending on them. So I've been a lot more um, structured in how I set up the ads now. I'm more specific about the keywords. I'm more specific about um, making sure that they're all working, that they're all worth things, and so Amazon ads, as you probably know, are not easy, but I do find that they are quite helpful. And recently, I've totally given up on Facebook ads because they've messed with that algorithm and their AI so badly. I can't even create an ad, never mind make sure it's targeted to my author, my readers.
Yeah, the Facebook doesn't. They want to do a broad audience and then narrow the focus through AI. So it's more difficult to make an ad profitable right out of the box. So with the AMS ads, are you seeing more profitability when you're in KU or out of KU?
Well, I think it's always better from Amazon's point of view to have you in KU, and I found that they are very willing to, or their algorithm is very willing to support you if you're supporting them. So if they see that you're in Kindle Unlimited, you get more visibility. If they see that you're advertising, you get more visibility. When your books are doing well in your categories, you get more visibility. You get chosen for promotions and things like that. So um, even when they're not directly profitable, I think there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes with Amazon ads that help to make you profitable in the long run.
They have an algorithm that's almost as complex or more complex than Facebook.
Right, but you can't see it.
Yeah, yeah, that's and it's difficult to figure out because they like Facebook, they keep changing it.
Well,
Um,
that's
it
true too.
yeah, it is. So I haven't used AMS ads in a while, so I'm thinking about venturing back in, and it's I've never been, my profitability was always like $1 spend and $1 earned. So
Right. Well, it's better
yeah,
than $2 spend in $1.
yeah, it's so I like to drive all my Facebook ads to my own store. So and then I have links on the store um, to each bookstore, so they can click on if they don't want to buy directly from me, they can buy from whatever store they want, which it makes it a little easier for them, and it keeps them in the same ecosystem, and they're still buying from me.
Right. Yeah. I've recently been kind of intrigued by a site called Fantastic Fiction. I don't know if you've gotten involved with them, but I think you have to be nominated to get on there. Like somebody asks for your book and they put you on there, and then it's a great site for people to go to, and they have that link that will go everywhere. So it's a universal link, so people can go to Fantastic Fiction and then find you or authors like you and get directly to your book. So I'm watching that very closely. I think that's a really interesting thing.
I did see that you had a link to that on your front page on your website, and I wondered about that because it would seem counterintuitive to send people off your page to someone else's page.
Well, that's true. I have like a whole bunch of websites, to be honest. I have my regular website, which has links to my store and to Amazon and everywhere. I have my store, which is shopsharonward.com, for those of you who don't know that. Um, and so that's what goes to me directly. I also have been experimenting with two new author website possibilities. One is BookBub is now offering author websites for very low cost, and they're pretty rudimentary right now, but they're adding new capabilities. In fact, I think they just added the ability to have links to your own store, so that's pretty nice. Um, and also a company called Tertulia, which is doing the same thing. Also very inexpensive and very nice, designed for authors. They make it easy. Um, so, I'm a kind of a geek. I always worked in high tech, so you give me a little geeky something to work with, and it's hard to pull me away. But yeah,
So
so I have a lot of
are you experimenting with putting up various websites and seeing which one does better?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Is it just what's your goal for that? Just to see which one does better and which and what direction to go?
That's part of it. The other is that I wanted to. I've owned a lot of Sharon Ward kind of URLs for years, and just paid for them and had them like forward to my regular, website. And then I said, well, you know what? Let's see what happens if I do this on its own website. A little different, similar, but a little different from the main one. And I find I actually get not, earth-shattering traffic from them, but a little more traffic. People are signing up for my newsletter, which I never send out. Um, and so that's kind of an experiment. It's going well.
Okay. Uh, always interesting to hear what other authors are doing to drum up traffic and sales. So you said you don't send out a newsletter very much. Are you working on building a list? Is the list integral to your sales?
It is not integral to my sales actually, but I am working on building it up. I have signups on all of my websites, all of my varied websites, and I get new signups periodically. And I tell them that my newsletter comes out at random, infrequent intervals. So there's no danger in signing up for my newsletter, by the way, because you will not be inundated with spam. Um, I think in 4 years I've sent out two. Um, when something exciting was happening, I'll probably send one out when Heat Wave comes out because it's been a while since my last book, Ice Water, and probably when the first book I write with Wayne comes out, I'll put that in the newsletter as well. But I really hate getting, oh, today I went to the grocery store kind of
Yeah.
newsletters. If it's not momentous, you're not going to hear from me.
Are you keeping separate lists like those who buy books from your shop, Sharon Ward, or and then those who come in to maybe get a free book from you?
I have a source code that comes in that tells me where they came from, but I don't differentiate. They all go into the same email program, and I don't differentiate from them unless I could, but I don't because I
Yeah.
don't do newsletters. But it's
Uh, I find it's important that when people come into um, the Shopify store, that they get nurtured from their purchase forward, and then you can keep track of like if they bought the first book bundle, then you can send them an email to say, hey, we got these other bundles. Are you interested? So it is a way to help generate more revenue for you.
I agree. I agree. And I did have, in fact, I still do. I think have workflows set up for exactly that type of thing on my Shopify store, but I didn't see a lot from it. People tend to buy my whole series every time. I
That's
hardly ever
amazing.
get one-offs.
Yeah. Well, that's phenomenal. That's amazing that they come in and buy the whole thing.
I know. I
Uh,
don't discourage them, by the way.
Oh no. Do they buy the whole thing in ebook or do they like paperbacks? What?
Um, well, right now ebooks are not available on my store because they're in Kindle Unlimited, and
No.
honestly, my sales have gone down on my store because of that. So yes, when they very often buy the whole thing in ebooks, it's less common that they buy the whole thing in paperback or hardcover, but they usually buy three or four at least.
Yeah. Are you doing a bundle, a discount for them?
No,
No?
well, I have some bundles. Like I have bundles of, the first three books, the first five books, all the usual stuff. And the audiobook bundled with the ebook or bundled with the paperback or whatever. But so there are bundles, but it's not. But I don't necessarily see. Here's where I'm a lousy business person. I don't necessarily promote the bundles.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. How's the merchandise selling?
The merchandise is terrible. You know what my most popular item is? This is so crazy. It's a there's a Rio, the research institute that Finn works at, has a little logo which I designed, and it's a stupid looking little logo. But Finn wears it on her t-shirts all the time. It's on all my covers. She drinks out of Rio branded cups. She does all this, and people ask for a sticker, a Rio branded um what are they? They're those plastic stickers you put on your car, and they're cheap, and people buy them all the time. And then they send me pictures of their car with my Rio thing on it, and I'm like, way to go.
That's fabulous advertising. Yeah, I assume you have a Rio URL pointing to your store, right?
I do not, but you know what? I should.
That go buy that today because that's a
Exactly. Don't
point.
anyone buy it until I get there. Yeah.
Yeah, point that at your store.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today and talking about books with me and writing. When I started this podcast, I thought I was going to do talk about plotting and a lot more writing. And I as I've done it, I've been like, I'm more interested in how we're doing, um, advertising and just more more of the business side of stuff because I think we can all talk about plotting and how that kind
And
of
how you
stuff
don't do it.
or how to develop a scene and how do you keep things tight or I mean it's most writers kind of I don't know for pantsers I think it's almost integral or and we already have it built in that we're um, how to keep it tight. We might need some tweaks with the editor, but I think it's already there. And the deeper, the more books you write, the better you get at it.
Hmm.
So I'm like, how many times can I ask the same question? How do you keep the tension tight? So I started leaning more towards the business side of it because I think that that's where like more authors um, kind of fail. We might put a book out, but then we don't follow up. Either we don't write another book, or we don't have a business plan, or we don't know where to get started on that kind of stuff. And I think um, people in the tropical authors uh, have like a built-in system or built-in support group because
Hmm.
they'll come in and say, people can come into our Facebook chat or whatever and ask questions about how to do different stuff, and the people on there are always just willing to lend a hand and willing to talk about it. Um, so I might have to change it to business recon instead of plot recon.
I think that's true, because I do a fair number of presentations at like Sisters in Crime or other mostly mystery writing conferences and get-togethers, and people don't understand how to make themselves successful. And when I say that there's 18 million books on Amazon and you got to do something to make sure your most difficult task is not going to be writing the book. It's going to be getting visibility on Amazon where 70% of the ebooks in the world are sold. So how are you going to do that? Well, step one is you better know what your category is. And I didn't when I started, and I lucked out because Amazon put me in the right category. Oh, look at that. There's a category I should be in. Um, but since then, I figured out how to, use the category ladder and how to, drill down and find out where I should be. And I think that's the most important thing. Whether you choose to be self-published or you want to stay traditionally published, it's the most important thing that you can understand is where your book belongs on the Amazon categories. Because if you're self-published, it's where you're going to get your visibility. And if you want to be traditionally published, it's where you're going to get your comps. So, you learn your categories. And if you don't know how the categories work or where they are, send me an email. I'll be happy to walk you through it.
It's It's all about knowing who your reader is. So
Exactly.
and the reader fits into certain niches, and they like to read certain stuff. So um, for me, it's almost more interesting than to talk about this stuff because it's just I we write, we plot, we do all this stuff all day long, but the business side of it is what is the bottom of the iceberg where nobody sees, and
Exactly.
it's the toughest part of it. So, but it's what keeps our writing above the water. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
People always say to me, "Oh, are you retired?" And I say, "No, I'm a writer," but they look a lot alike. You know.
that is true. We spend a lot of time sitting around contemplating, and then inspiration strikes, and we're madly typing away and don't
Exactly.
want to be bothered. It's so much fun to talk about this stuff and to get to meet other authors. Like this is the first time we're sitting down and talking, so it's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate you being on the show. And but we've been going about an hour, so that's
Okay.
we're going to wrap it up. Um, so thank you all for listening to Plot Recon or Business Recon, maybe I'll start calling it. A big thanks to Sharon Ward for pulling back the curtain on what it takes to build a 9-book mystery series and stay disciplined through the grind. If you haven't read her Fleming scuba diving mystery series, start with In Deep and see where readers keep coming back for more. You can also learn more about Sharon and her work at SharonWard.com or one of her many other URLs. If you've got something out of today's conversation, share it with another listener, leave a review, and subscribe for more deep dives into the craft of business and writing. I'm Evan Graver. Thanks for listening. Stay sharp, write hard, and keep your fiction tactical.